Hello, hello. What's up? And welcome back to another live stream with GizmoSlipTech. Today we're comparing the Legion 9i and the Legion Pro 7i in a head-to-head benchmark comparison side by side. That is obviously going to affect thermals a little bit because the laptops are fairly close. Keep that in mind. But generally speaking, I've got a fan blowing air into this room, so we got some good airflow in general, and they are lifted as well. They're on their power adapters, so they should have plenty of airflow in the underside. We're going to do a lot of things today. So we're going to look at the price and configuration options on the Pro 7i and the Legion 9i, and we're going to kind of look at the value proposition, because there's basically two kinds of buyers, in my view, when you're looking at the Legion 9i and Pro 7i. You got your value buyers who are looking for the best bang for the buck and an all-around mostly premium chassis, which I think is more the Legion Pro 7i, right? And then you got the ultimate premium performance and I guess the most premium laptop that you can possibly buy type of buyers. And maybe they're fans of Legion, maybe they love the keyboard, maybe they love Legion support. I don't know, whatever reasons they're interested in Legion. The Legion 9i has clearly some extra features that are really nice to have. And we're gonna go over all of those extra features. So we're gonna do a detailed feature comparison, value comparison, performance comparison, display comparison. We got a lot of different things we're going to talk about today. So, and then we're going to move into, we're going to do head-to-head testing for 10 different games at the same exact resolution. So, even though the Legion 9i is theoretically a higher resolution display, you can run games at the same actual resolution. Of course, that's going to cause a little bit of fuzziness because it's a non-native resolution on the Legion 9i. So really, this is more, the performance comparison today is not about what the native displays are, because we already did that in the Legion 9i unboxing and in the Legion Pro 7i unboxing. This video is really about getting both of these laptops on the exact same NVIDIA driver, the exact same settings for the overclock, the exact same resolution to see performance differences as well. So yeah, what's up CHY? What's up SES? I'm really excited about this live stream. This is, I think, one of the most interesting value propositions right now in the gaming laptop space. If you're looking to spend like $2,800 to $4,000 on a gaming laptop, these are certainly two of the most important laptops to consider. Now, I've got the displays right now at maximum brightness, and it's kind of blowing out the darkness of the laptop itself. Kind of hard to see the laptop. So if I turn down the displays down to 30% brightness on both, I guess that's 20%. Yeah, they're both at 20% brightness right now. You can see the Legion 9i at least has very peaky brightness still. It's an extremely peaky brightness. It's a mini LED display, right? So we're going to talk about that here in a second. Let's go ahead and get into the outline here. Let's talk price and configuration differences, as well as spec differences. And we're going to show off the RGB differences as well, show the displays as well, like kind of like I just did, but in a little more detail. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right. So first of all, this right here is my gaming laptop comparison ranked lists, and it's got basically, it's a way to shop for gaming laptops in 2023. Links to nearly every laptop you can buy, at least especially in the United States market. There's obviously a few models that specific configurations. It's hard to list everything, but there's hundreds, 343 different laptops right now on the list. And that's not including all the different configurations, because there's a lot of extra configs in here. Now, at the very top, we have a top deal section, premium laptop section right here. This is kind of like the very best of the best, and then also the best portable laptops right here. Now, if you want to support me as a content creator, one of the ways to do it is to actually use the links on this list the next time you buy a laptop, or use the links in the video description. Those will also help support me and my team that help manage this list. And a lot of people use this list. I'm also currently selling some used laptops if you're in the market. Some of these have already sold at this point. I think 4 or 5 of them have sold now, but there are several on here that are still available for sale. We are regularly adjusting these prices to try to make them competitive. If you're interested, please hit it up Ahmed. Right here, this is the phone number if you're interested in picking one of those up. If you want to see the full review video of the laptop, so you can see the the performance, the specs, everything, you can see the exact temperatures and everything of the laptop that we're actually selling. And if you want to see pictures of the laptop in particular, there should be links to actual pictures in here. Looks like some of these don't have actual pictures in here, but a lot of them should have actual pictures of the laptop itself as well. But of course, you can check out the review video if you want to check detailed pictures, because I show everything in the review video and it's actually the laptop in that video. Okay, so the two laptops we're going to be comparing today, the Legion Pro 7i with an i9-13900HX, though the unit we have only came with 16 gigs of RAM. So that's one thing to keep in mind, but we're using the stock RAM that Lenovo sent over. I could have thrown in 32 gigs of RAM, but it would not have been the official brand stuff that Lenovo's using. So I wanted to make sure to use the stuff that Lenovo is actually putting in their laptops for this comparison. So we got an i9-13900HX. This is a 24-core, 32-thread processor. The best available from Intel is technically the one in the Legion 9i, the 13980HX. So there's a noticeable difference right away. Now, in terms of actual performance and real-world usage, it's not a massive difference in performance. And in fact, having a better cooling system on your CPU will likely actually net you more performance, even if you have the lower-tiered i9-13900HX. So cooling is arguably a more important spec to keep in mind when you're looking at these CPU performance, because it's almost like a higher tiered silicon. Basically, is the i9-13980HX, which means in theory it should be stable at slightly higher clocks. It should be able to clock up like 100 or 200 hertz more on megahertz more on the single core or two cores. But generally, I believe that all core is supposed to be the same. And you may also be able to undervolt a little bit better on the 13980HX. So that's an area where it's hard to necessarily say, because I've seen good undervolts on both the 13900 and 13980HX, and undervolting can net you 10 to 20% performance gains with those CPUs. So it's a very big deal if you can go from not just undervolt 10%, to get 10% boost, but up to a 20% boost and still be stable. That's kind of like the main advantage of getting the 13980HX in my view. But that's not even guaranteed. That's, Silicon Lottery still varies even in the 13980HX. So the display here is a QHD 240 Hz 500 nits display on the Legion Pro 7i. That's a very bright display. The thing is, it's only a 100% DCI P3 color gamut. A 100% sRGB, not 100% P3 color gamut. And because it's not mini LED, it also does not have a ultra high level of contrast. And I'm going to try to show you that today side by side with the Legion 9i. Now, I've done unboxing reviews. I've done optimization guides for the Legion Pro 7i. If you're interested in the Legion Pro 7i, it's definitely one of the best value laptops for the year, if not the #1 laptop in terms of just straight value for your money. On the ultra high end. Now, obviously, value for your money gets worse and worse going up to a 4080 and 4090 compared to like getting like an RTX 4060 equipped laptop at $1,000. That's probably your best value right now. Okay, moving on. Legion 9i. We got the 13980HX. You got an RTX 4090 in here. Even though we don't have the specs shown here, you can get this with DDR5 6400 megatransfers instead of 5600 megatransfers. And that also includes tightening the timings down on that RAM for slightly improved RAM performance. Now we got a 1 terabyte SSD and a 3.2K mini LED that's only 165 hertz. So if you're an esports gamer, this is a downgrade in the sense that it's not as fast of a refresh rate on the Legion 9i. If you're an esports gamer, maybe it would be better to go with the Legion Pro 7i just because of the higher refresh rate. That said, Lenovo rates this at 1200 nits, but when I tested the Legion 9i with my Spider 5 Elite, I only got a little over 600 nits, like 610 nits, which is just, it's not as good as what Lenovo rates it as, right? So it's important to keep that in mind that this 1200 nits brightness is really like just the peak brightness. When there's very little bright spots on the display, maybe it'll get up to 1200 nits. It's not going to be 1200 nits for an all-screen brightness type of level of brightness. All right, so that means that in reality, in terms of brightness, the Legion Pro 7i and the Legion 9i are not too different in terms of brightness levels. So that's something to keep in mind for sure. Now, when you go to configure the Legion Pro 7i, let's look at the value options right now. So if you were to configure this with the Windows 11, 16 gigs, which is how we're testing it today, and most games are still good with only 16 gigs. You do not need to get 32 gigs unless you're going to play certain titles. But if you want to be sure that you can play all titles without having memory bottlenecks, I do recommend 32 gigs if you can swing it. So let's say we did 32 gigs, and then probably would want to get your own SSD if you want to upgrade your SSD size, because it's much cheaper if you buy your own like 2 or 4 terabyte or 8 terabyte SSDs compared to just, you know, spending $50 to get only a half a gig there. Now you got the 4080 right here, and it's $500 additional if you want to go to the 4090. And that brings you up to $3,064.50. And if you actually do try to go check out with this, we do have the coupon code. Right now it says it's extra 5. There's also, let's see if there's any other ones. I don't know if there's any other ones right now off the top of my head, but one thing, because this video is going to live for a long time on YouTube. So one thing I want to make sure that you know, if you buy a Lenovo laptop from Lenovo, be sure to try to look for coupon codes for the system, because the coupon codes oftentimes can take $200, $300, $400 off. So when you get to the cart here, this is where you can usually put in a coupon code. Extra 5 is what we currently say works. I don't know if it actually works. And there it did. It just took off. Oh, wait. Sorry, extra 5 coupon is currently expired. Please try again. Okay, I'm not sure. Chat, do you guys know which coupon code is active right now? I don't know. Chat will let us know. I bet you someone in the chat knows. But if I find out, we'll be updating the coupon codes, right? If we do get updated coupon codes, we'll be putting them up here in this little mini review section for coupons. Okay. So and right now, I think actually my guys had texted me what the coupon code was recently. Let me see. Yeah, let me see if this one works. Gaming CTO deal. Oh, looks like it is not expired as well. Maybe it was supposed to be spelled like that. No. Okay. Not sure. We'll figure it out and update the descriptions up here when we get new coupon codes. But usually there's a 5 or 10% off coupon codes from Lenovo. Sometimes you can get 2 of them for like 15% off. That's usually the best deal overall when it comes to Lenovo stuff. So Legion 9i, if you go to configure this, you're looking at $3420 for your base price, which is more than the 4090 version. So this is the 4080 version right here with the Legion 9i. So you're already paying $400 more for the worst GPU. If you go ahead and upgrade to the overclocked RAM, let's just leave it at this RAM for just a moment, for value comparison's sake. Let's just jump to the 4090. There you go. You're paying $888 more for the Legion 9i with similar-ish specs, like the same amount of RAM, similar GPU, which are the most important things probably in terms of adding price. The GPU is the most important thing. So $3888 versus $3064. So $720 more if you want to get the Legion 9i, at least not including coupon codes or anything like that. All right. So is it worth it? Is it worth the extra money? Well, it's the kind of thing where, you know, if you want the overclockable RAM out of the box, you got to go with the Legion 9i. And this, you can get RAM and overclock it third-party RAM like the Kingston Fury Impact. I believe that's overclockable in the Legion series. I'm not sure though. I believe it is. It'd be helpful if any users can confirm that or not, but I know that it's overclockable in other systems like XMG Neo, which I did test it in. And in the Blade 18, which currently the Kingston Fury Impact RAM is located in, I put that RAM in my Blade 18. That RAM does run at tighter timings, even though it's at DDR5 5600, and I cannot overclock it to 6400, even though it's rated to be overclocked, as far as I know, at least, in the BIOS. I did not see any options to change it. So yeah, Legion 9i costs significantly more. $39.78 if you want the config that we have here today, plus tax and shipping. And if you want to add any extra warranties, it'll cost more. It cost me total $4,700 for the Legion 9i that we are testing today. And the Legion Pro 7i was around, I think it was on sale. It was like $27.50 or something like that when I got it with a 4090. So just know that I'm expecting that these prices right here, they'll go up and down, right? This is going to vary, especially depending on which coupon codes are available right now. So please keep that in mind when you're looking to order one of these devices. Okay, let's move in to our next segment. So we've talked about the different CPU and RAM. Basically, we've got the i9-13980HX versus the i9-1300HX between these two systems, and there's not much of a performance difference, and realistically, cooling can matter more. Now, the RAM speed, interestingly enough, I don't think we're going to see a big performance difference, but that's one of the things that we'll be testing today because it is DDR5 6400 in the Legion 9i. But realistically, maybe it may not make that big of a difference, quite frankly. We'll find out today. And then in addition, so here, let's go in order, right? So RGB differences is the next segment. I want to check in with chat real quick, make sure that we're doing good. Serious Sam wants me to review, I think he's basically requesting me to do the Helios 4080. Yeah, I think that would be a great laptop to review, and I'll probably try to do it before Christmas season here, probably in the next month or so. I'll try to get a Predator Helios 18. Okay, let's see here. CHY says, I have a Lenovo Yoga Pro 16, which uses the same panel as the Legion 9i, and my eyeballs are nearly melted from the brightness. Yeah, it's an extremely bright display. And that peakiness really pops out at you especially when it's a mixed brightness type of a background you're looking at. Does Honey recommend anything? I'm not sure, Ben Rad, but Honey, I believe, would remove any kind of support from me as a content creator if you use Honey. So I would ask, if you want to support me, don't use Honey. But if you want to use coupon codes, that still is fine in terms of as a content creator. Is there only any option on social media to text you? Best thing to do is email me, just gizmoslip@gmail.com if you need to reach out. Okay, moving in, let's go ahead and continue on. So RGB differences is the next segment. Let's talk RGB. Examining the Legion Pro 7i, we've got a front RGB strip. Notice that the front RGB strip, it literally only covers the very front edge. It does not wrap around. There's nothing here and there's nothing here. It still adds a nice RGB look to the laptop. Don't get me wrong. The RGB on the keyboard itself is very prominent, bright, vibrant, equal to the best RGB out there, in my opinion. Let's go ahead and turn this around. Notice that there is no RGB on the back at all. It's completely dark. There is no light up logo. It's a mirror reflective Legion logo here on the Pro 7i. So let's talk RGB on the Legion 9i. So the RGB on the Legion 9i, notice that the keyboard, first of all, the keyboard is scooted down a little bit, and we have moved the trackpad, or Lenovo has moved the trackpad down and made it a little shallower, so it's not as tall of a trackpad. All right, looking at the bottom of the laptop, you can see that the RGB goes all the way around. So, or not all the way around, but wraps around the front corners here, giving the laptop certainly a more pizzazzy look, in my opinion. And then in addition, you get some nice RGB strip on the back along the rear vents and ports here. And then also a light up Legion logo as well. So that light up Legion logo is full RGB and rotates in colors. This gives the laptop like more of a 360 view look, I guess, if you will. Not quite full 360. The Legion the Legion 7i I had in 2021 version had, I think, in my opinion, almost slightly better RGB because the RGB was coming out of the vents, which was really cool. But this doesn't have that. It has the strip instead. And so in some ways it's better, some ways it's worse. It depends on what your taste is. Let me ask my guys if there's any valid coupons for Legion laptops right now. See if I can share them with you. Okay. So that's the RGB differences. I do think the Legion 9i looks better from an RGB-ified perspective. You know, like it's not a massive difference, but it's a difference. And it's something that you're definitely paying money for. I'm guessing at least $200 of the price difference is probably related to all of the RGB. And, you know, for some people, that's a steep price to pay for RGB. Other people are like, yeah, that's no problem. I love it. I love RGB so much. Let's do it. You know, so it's something to consider and keep in mind with whatever laptop you end up going with. All right. Okay, so let's talk next segment. Cooling differences. This is very important to understand about these two devices. And let's see if we can get the promo pages here. Okay, so here's a picture of the Legion 9i's cooling system. I don't think it's going to actually show me the image any bigger. But basically, this thing has a mixture of heat pipes and a water cooling loop with a little water pump in the Legion 9i, okay? So, oh, there it is. Now you can see it. So this is an important difference between these two laptops. The thermal cooling solution has this integrated water loop. The problem is the water loop does not go to an external radiator in any way. Like it just circulates within the system here, and the water loop basically goes over the heat pipes, touching the heat pipes, and that would hopefully disperse the heat out through the fans and the heat fins. So as far as I know, that's how this cooling system works here. So there's the water loop right here, and that goes over the heat pipes, which go to the fans, and it's a triple fan system instead of just a dual fan system in the Legion Pro 7i. That said, we will be looking at the thermals of this device. Like here's another example of the heat pipes. So one giant big fat heat pipe that goes over everything, and then another dedicated heat pipe right here on the CPU, and another two dedicated heat pipes just for the GPU over here. So, I mean, there's a lot here, but this water cooling loop takes up space that could have been used for another heat pipe or some other form of cooling. And it's certainly questionable, in my view, that Lenovo added it. And that's one of the questionable part is, does it actually improve temperatures or not? And if it does not, then why was it added? We're going to look at that today. We're going to be looking specifically at the VRAM. This water loop goes over the VRAM modules, the memory modules for the graphics card, the RTX 4090, and tries to cool them. Now, the Legion Pro 7i, I'm not sure if we can see the cooling. Usually they have the cooling on here, but I don't see it. I know I pulled it up when I did my unboxing. Let's see if I can just pull that up here.
Back to a unbox.
Okay, so
feel like repaint, so want to be careful. Don't want that decent. Taking
is this a? I don't think it's a vapor chamber, but it's like a mixture of heat pipes and vapor chamber. I think on the Pro 7i. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me see if I get a little closer up on the heat pipes. I don't think so. I don't know. But basically, the important part is that to know that the VRAM in the Legion Pro 7i is completely dedicated with a cooling cover that is not this artificial water loop. Now, I think the Legion 9i originally had an external water cooler that was designed for it, because there's a blank section on the ports in the back of the laptop even where they could have put additional ports, but instead that's where the water cooling loops end basically. And that's where the little pump is. I don't know. I think they were playing with the idea of using an external radiator like the XMG Neo water cooler, and they decided against it. So if I flip the Legion 9i around, you can see right here, there's this blank area. Let me make sure this chat, you can see this blank area right here theoretically could have had an input and output like on the XMG Neo, because that's where the water cooler loop ends. And I think Lenovo backtracked that idea part of the way through production. I have not verified this with Lenovo. I don't know if that's true. That's just my guess as a content creator, because I'm not in contact with Lenovo at this point. So I can't officially ask them that. But either way, there is that cooling difference between these two laptops. Okay. Smiles UK says, can you run the Legion 9i at the same resolution as the 7i and see if there's any notable differences? That's what we're going to be doing today for all of the testing. We're going to be doing it at the exact same resolution. Okay. It's time to do our display comparison. So on the left, we have the Legion Pro 7i. That is the brightness at minimum possible brightness. That is the Legion 9i at minimum possible brightness. The Legion 9i, because it has that mini LED display, it does not get as dark. So if you're a dark room user, I mean, this is extremely dark. It'd be very hard to see it. So we go up to, say, 20% brightness, up 20% brightness. Again, you can see how much brighter the Legion 9i. It'd probably helpful if we use the exact same background for this. Let's see here. What's the best way to pull the exact same background? Let's just grab a background from Windows if we can. Ooh. There are some Legion backgrounds. Let's see if there's same Legion backgrounds or not. There is not the same backgrounds. Interesting. Well, there is the Windows background, so we can use that for sure. At least in theory, I should be able to use that. There we go. Okay. Okay, so these two laptops right now are on the same level of brightness, at least in Windows. 20% brightness. Let's take it up to 50% brightness. All right, so there's the two levels of brightness. Pro 7i on the left, Legion 9i on the right. Notice how much peakier this is. The darks are super dark. The brights are so white that it's like almost blowing out my camera. Let's go up to 70% brightness. All right, and then let's take it all the way up to 100. And there, once we get to 100, the Pro 7i and the Legion 9i get a little bit closer. Let me try turning down the exposure on my camera a little bit so you can see, as we get dimmer, how much darker or brighter the Legion 9i display is. It is noticeably brighter to my eyes, the Legion 9i. That said, this is still very bright to my eyes, right? With the camera, we're adjusting. I'm adjusting the shutter kind of artificially to get us the exact same image. We're gonna pull up a YouTube video now to look at the image here. Before we do that, I will change the resolution to the full resolution because I did down the resolution temporarily to so they'd be the same 2560 by 1600. Okay, so we're gonna do this 4K OLED video here, and we'll time it so that it goes at the same time. Wow, it will not get rid of that window. There we go. So once you get into your content, you're not looking at like artificial images. I feel like the biggest visual difference I see between these two is just the contrast ratio of the Pro 7i is not as good. That's probably the biggest difference, I would say, if I were to be like, let me mute these so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, and then what's this one? I don't want to do that. Let's try to do another LG video. QNED 8K. Okay. All right, so at 4K, all right, both displays are at the same resolution right now. Sorry, both at native resolution right now. Both of the displays are at native resolution. I'll try to zoom in a little bit more. And you can see just like the colors are just popping a little bit better on the Legion 9i. And if you're a professional that works in like videos, I feel like the colors popping is going to be more noticeable. In addition, if I'm not sure which the best way to show you the contrast ratio difference is between these, but like, I would say that like I'm adjusting I'm adjusting the exposure on the camera right now to go overexposure, and just to show you like the grayness of the edges of the display here and like kind of the background pieces. It just shows you how much more contrasty that the Legion 9i is, in my opinion, when I do it like this. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do our contrast again just a little bit, our exposure a little bit. So, I mean, overall, I think both are very good displays. You're going to be able to enjoy the content of either laptop, no problem. But if you're a professional and you're going to use this for work all the time, I probably would recommend the Legion 9i display over the Pro 7i, mainly because of the higher contrast and color saturation, which is just going to match a lot more of the smartphone, highly contrasty OLED displays that smartphone users use. When you actually render your content out, this is more going to be representative of how the end users are going to view your content than this. But you're going to get pretty close with this, but it may not quite be as representative of the end users. Okay. Okay. Beautiful. Jaden Beats says, B&H Photo is $400 off on the 4090 i9. Nice. That's great. There should be a link on the sheet to the B&H photo if you're interested in checking that out. So, all right. Cool beans. Let's move into our next segment. Cinebench R23 and TimeSpy. So, Cinebench R23, a synthetic CPU benchmark testing program that's designed to simulate an all-core workload in a program that's like designed for rendering, and basically it's a way to gauge, a rough way to gauge how well your CPU will perform under that all-core workload. And we're going to pull up Cinebench R23. We're going to run the laptops at the exact same settings here in Lenovo Vantage. We're going to be in performance mode. We have a GPU overclock applied. There is no CPU undervolting on either system. It is stock on both systems to try to make it as fair as possible. Reduce differences based on silicon lottery. But undervolting, of course, is going to improve performance in both of these systems. Okay, and theoretically, I think custom mode would also slightly improve our performance on both systems as well. So keep that in mind. But these are the settings we'll be testing both laptops in today. The GPU overclock is plus 150 over 200 on both systems. So the overclock will be the same on both. All right, now we have Process Lasso running on the Legion 9i. I don't know if I still have that installed here on the, let me just make sure that it's installed. I find Process Lasso's startup pop-up to be too annoying. I end up always uninstalling it. I know you can disable it. But yeah. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just make sure that we've got our, basically with Process Lasso, we're allowed to, or it allows us to set the priority of the processor to be hyper focused just on Cinebench R23, which helps negate any variances based on other applications interrupting the CPU from Windows. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and pull this HW info up. We're gonna pull HW info up on the Legion Pro 7i. All right, and let's go ahead and get these positioned correctly as well, so we get all of the performance specs and temperatures and everything pulled up here. All right, now let's go ahead and move into our split screen view so you guys can see this a little bit better, at least when I zoom in and move the camera in here. Okay, so we're gonna want this to be over like that. Beautiful, and we're gonna put this like that, I believe, and we're gonna need to move this over here. Yeah, that should be close enough. Okay, so beautiful. And let's go ahead and just rotate the camera around a little bit. Let's pull this a little bit more over. There we go, and we'll move this over just a little bit and move the camera over just a little bit. Bingo. Okay, how does that look? Can we see everything? Probably a little fuzzy. Let me refocus on the camera here. All right, so that's probably about as good as we're gonna get with both systems being shown successfully. So, all right, let's go ahead and start our first test. We'll start it at the same time in 3, 2, 1. All right, so Legion 9i over here on the right, Pro 7i on the left. You can see the Pro 7i is actually has a slightly higher P-core at 4.09. The Legion 9i at 3.99. And we're going to see our performance numbers here in a moment on both. There you go. We got 30,944 right here on the Legion Pro 7i. Again, stock, no undervolting or overclocking of any kind. 29,625 on the Legion 9i. Let's go ahead and run it again. And the key thing besides the clock speed is, of course, the temperatures. What are the temperatures looking like? And we're going to do a longer test here in a moment. That'll give us a better idea of overall temps and performance of these two systems. So you can see right now the temps on the Legion Pro 7i going up to 88 degrees with the package going to 96. We did reach thermal throttling on there on the Legion Pro 7i. Our peak wattage reached 172. Our peak wattage for the Legion 9i only 157. So we're getting more wattage to the CPU right now in the Pro 7i. Let's go ahead and do a 10-minute test. All right, and we're going to reset our HW info values as well. So both of these systems are designed to run at very high wattage levels. Like 140 plus watts on the i9 is pretty insane amount of wattage on a CPU and a laptop. So if you're after the top potential performance, these laptops are going to get you in the right ballpark of performance, I think, for the vast majority of users out there. Trying to adjust the camera just a little bit more so we can see this a little bit better. Let's scroll this up just a little bit. Okay, so we can see at least one of the P core voltages on the Pro 7i. And let's scroll this up a little bit. There we go. Okay. All right, so we can get a couple of P core voltages on that one as well. There we go. Okay, cool. So now we've got over here on the Pro 7i, we're doing 3.6 gigahertz, 3.69 gigahertz on the P core. So the P cores being the performance cores, these are hyper-threaded cores. They get more done per clock cycle than the E cores. The E cores being single-threaded only. 2.85 gigahertz on the E cores right now in the Legion Pro 7i. 3.09 on the E cores on the Legion 9i. The P cores right now are in the exact same performance level at 3.59 on both. So keep that in mind. It's really about the average. So looking at our averages so far, 3.87 on the Legion 9i, 3.85, 3.87 on the Pro 7i. So very, very similar starting out averages between the Pro 7i and the Legion 9i. Though the scores were better on the Pro 7i because I believe it was pulling more wattage, at least initially. So let's go ahead and take a look at our wattage levels and temperatures now after we're about 3 minutes into the test. This is where we're going to start seeing the long power limits of the CPU coming into play and affecting performance quite a bit. Okay, so here is our wattage right now on the Pro 7i, 125 watts. Interesting. The Pro 7i in custom mode definitely can pull higher wattage than this, but our temps right now, let's take a look at our temps. Our CPU package temp is 90 degrees on the Pro 7i. CPU package temp on the Legion 9i is only 83 degrees. So we're actually having better temps on the Legion 9i at the same wattage level, which is very interesting. Very interesting indeed. So our average CPU package temp at 91 degrees for the Pro 7i, average CPU package temp for the Legion 9i at 84 degrees. I feel like these are very close. That's what I feel like right now. The Legion 9i certainly pulling off a little bit better temps. Looking at our clock speed averages, 3.7 gigahertz mostly on the P cores for the Pro 7i, 3.75 gigahertz on the Legion 9i, and you know, so that's about 100 megahertz more, almost 70, 80 megahertz more on the Legion 9i, which kind of makes sense at the same wattage level because this is the i9-13980HX, you know, which is a slightly higher bin processor that's supposed to go to like 100 megahertz more. So it's right in line with what you'd expect considering that they're running at the same wattage levels. So let's go ahead and see what our CPU temps are doing. $79 degrees for the core temp, 83 degrees, 4 degrees more on the Pro 7i, 84 degrees on average for the package temp, and 91 degrees on average for the Pro 7i. So that is a noticeable difference. Right now, the Legion 9i putting out better thermals, maybe because of the 3-fan system of the Legion 9i, giving it an advantage, more heat fins, like heat pipe fins on the Legion 9i, maybe helping it disperse heat a little bit better. Obviously, this has nothing to do with the water cooler loop because the water cooler loop only covers the GPU VRAM. So that's pretty much irrelevant to this portion of the testing. Shouldn't the 7i have an i7 CPU? What? Ghost says, hello, Brandon. How you doing? You have seen the leaks about the supposed 7900M launching October 19th. I have not seen the leaks yet. That's a good question. So it's going to be another 3 minutes. Let's take a quick peek at the leaks. Let's see here. So it's a 7900M. Let me see if I can find something. So 5 days ago, leaks suggest AMD's Radeon RX 7900M mobile GPU could launch October 19th with 72 compute units, 16 gigs of VRAM. Interesting. How many compute units are on the 7600M? Let's see. 28. So you'd be looking at theoretically more than double the performance of the 7600. That could be very interesting. That's obviously it's not going to translate just based on the compute units, but that's very important. Plus the stream processors in the Radeon GPUs, both those things are very important. So it's also 4600 stream processors and the 7600M. Do they have the stream processors listed here? I'm not seeing it off the top of my head. 1,792, so more than double the stream processors too. So, I mean, that's significant. If the leak is true about the 7900, then that could be some pretty awesome sauce for everyone in the laptop space, because this would probably undercut the RTX 4080 and probably give RTX 4080 levels performance, which just probably throws a massive monkey wrench into the NVIDIA's monopoly they've got going on right now. So I'd love to see that. Okay, so we've got 2 minutes left in the CPU test. Let's take a look at our average temps. All right, we've really baked in the temps now. We've taken a good look at what kind of temps we can expect and performance. Let's our clock speed first. Average P cores on the Pro 7i, 3.65, 3.68, 3.75. So about 100 megahertz higher on the Legion 9i. for the clock speed. For the P cores, E cores 3.17, 3.17, 3.12, 3.05, 3.0. So you're getting 100 megahertz more on both the P cores and the E cores for your actual processing speed. That should translate to a higher performance in Cinebench R23, in theory at least. All right, so coming down a little bit, our core package temp averaging 79 degrees on the Legion Pro 7i. Our core temp 79, our CPU package 83, core temps on the Pro 7i 84, 91. So looking at just the package temps, you're looking at 8 degrees cooler on the Legion 9i. Very nice. Looking at our CPU package power, which is very important, 125 watts on average. And 127.7 watts on average, actually. And our average wattage for the Legion 9i is actually 125. So what does that tell us? That tells us that the Legion 9i with the i9-13980HX is running slightly more power efficient, giving us a slightly higher boost clock during this test. And it looks like the test is just about to finish right now. And we did score 27,566 on the Legion Pro 7i. Let me see if I can zoom in a little better for this final score. And 27,555 on the Legion 9i. So very similar performance, almost no difference at all, at least on Cinebench R23. Now that doesn't tell us everything about gaming performance or different types of workloads like single threaded. This is only an all-core, multi-core workload type of situation. So very interesting results. We're moving in to TimeSpy next. All right, so TimeSpy is a synthetic benchmark as well that can give you a good ballpark on your GPU performance. It's not a perfect indicator of performance, especially when you factor in CPU-bound games versus GPU-bound games. That can make a big difference. But TimeSpy is one of those things that is very, very useful when evaluating. TimeSpy is very, very useful when evaluating things like overall GPU performance to give you just a rough idea of where your GPU sits. And there is some silicon lottery effects that go on with all benchmarking, but especially when you're trying to push overclocking and stuff like that, it can make a big difference. Okay. So here we are. We're going to load up TimeSpy. We're going to click it at the same time. All right. Let's go ahead and let's try to make sure this is lined up. I'll have to adjust this as we do this. Okay, so I'm going to click this at the same time, but that doesn't mean it's going to load at exactly the same time. It's going to be a little bit different loading times. Just to verify everything is good to go here. The Xbox app doesn't want to close down for some reason. Classic. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and run TimeSpy at the same time. 3, 2, 1. All right. Okay. LSP says, someone in the Legion Discord commented that your 9i has middle CPU binning, and some other users have shunted the laptop, pulling extreme power draw, reaching the top spot in TimeSpy. Yeah, I do think that I don't really know how the binning is on the Legion 9i until I actually tried to undervolt it. Oh, hold on. I want this to be done correctly. So I want all of the tests today to be ran at the exact same resolution. Not that it really matters for TimeSpy, because TimeSpy artificially limits the resolution to be the exact same, but that does affect how the overlay is sized, because it scales with resolution and DPI scaling from Windows. So now we'll run it, because I pre-planned all of the positioning and everything to be exactly the right size. I don't want it to be the wrong size, you know. So all right. Yeah, like I think it's hard to tell your silicon binning until you try to undervolt it, because until it's undervolted, you won't really see the true performance of it. And the stability when you're undervolting it, I think, is really, really key. Revik says, which one has the better display? Well, I already went ahead and talked about all of the display options. Well, now the Legion 9i has a black bar around it because... Okay, we're going to have to do this again. I have to restart 3D Mark. I have to restart 3D Mark with the new Windows resolution so that it launches with the correct DPI scaling. So it'll just take a moment. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Things are looking good so far. Let's see if it works correctly this time. I think it will. In theory. Dirk says, can't wait to see the difference between the Legion Pro 7i and the Legion Pro 7945HX. That would be an interesting stream for sure. I would love to do that. I would love for Lenovo to send that to me. Not sure that they would or not. I can't get... I guess the black bars are permanent, like they're stuck right now on the Legion 9i. So you'll have to forgive the black bars for this test. The performance should still be the same, right? Okay, so out of the gate, both laptops in the exact same performance modes. We're doing about the same level of FPS. You know, 130, you know, give or take 1 or 2 FPS typically. Obviously, what the Legion Pro 7i is slightly ahead. So when you're comparing these numbers, look at the Pro 7i first, and then you'll want to look at the 9i after. And I'll fix this overlay in the next one, in the next game. So, okay. Our CPU wattage on the Legion Pro 7i is higher, 50 watts versus 35 watts. The CPU core speed is higher. The GPU boost clock was very similar, but the actual wattage being pulled was also pretty similar. I think the Pro 7i may have slightly been ahead. I have to look at, we'll look at the wattage here going into this next test. Okay, so looking at the Pro 7i wattage, 173 right now versus 165. So we're pulling more watts through the Pro 7i GPU. Looks like on a pretty consistent basis by about, well, now they're the same. 175 versus 174. So they're pretty dang similar. Also, the GPU boost clock is very similar between the two. The Pro 7i going slightly higher during this segment. I think the Pro 7i had a slightly higher boost clock during that segment. Now, looking at our temperatures, despite the Pro 7i pulling higher CPU wattage, the temps are not too much different. I guess they're a little bit higher on the Pro 7i, about 5 degrees warmer on the Pro 7i versus the Legion 9i on the CPU temps side. The GPU temps are right in line with one another. And our memory junction, our VRAM temperature right here at 100 degrees on the Pro 7i, 100 degrees on the Legion 9i. What is that internal water cooling doing for us? I don't see it doing anything for us right now. At least in Time Spy, doing basically nothing. So this is our CPU focused test. All right, so let's see what we get. 21,005. Rotate the camera. Wow, the Legion 9i scored significantly higher in the CPU test. 19,572. Overall score also much higher, but really what I focus on in video games here is the GPU performance. 21,575 versus 22,285. Based on the boost clocks that we saw on the GPU, this performance is not making a ton of sense. Just because the boost clocks seemed like they were very like neck and neck. I didn't see anything different there. The CPU score, the 9i, I think took it because we have a higher bin CPU, and the 9i can boost clocks a little bit higher. You undervolt both of these, I feel like it would not make the CPU really shouldn't be this much of a difference. I don't know. The CPU difference is interesting to me. It's just right now, I don't understand the full reasons why we scored so differently on the CPU. Could also be related to the memory speed, I suppose. In theory, that is certainly something that that it could be related to. Let me go ahead and this is something I was not going to do, but I think it would be great. Let's download Ada64 and do a memory test. You're gonna get a memory test out of this live stream, and I think it's gonna be awesome. So gotta figure out which one to download. Let's see. Let's do this download. Wow, there's so many pop-ups on Ada64's website. So I already have the memory test installed on the Legion 9i. I just gotta download it for the Pro 7i. All right. So this obviously is important for testing. This is a synthetic test. And I'm thinking of buying a license for this and maybe doing this on a regular basis. Some type of memory testing. I don't know if I'll do Ada64 or not because they have a per computer licensing system, which obviously doesn't work well for me because I'm constantly switching computers. So if I can get them to give me a more permanent license or something, I would consider using them on a regular basis. Or at least letting me buy a permanent license that I can use on a regular basis. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start this benchmark. We'll start this benchmark. So this is just, it's gonna test our copy, read, write, copy, and latency. We're not gonna be able to see all of the data, but we're gonna be able to see a lot of it. Because you have to pay for the full version if you wanna see all of the data, which like I said, I will consider paying for it in the future. So, very important differences here between the RAM. You'll notice that we have DDR5 5600 on the Legion Pro 7i. And look at our RAM timings, 46, 45, 45, 89. This is how long it takes per clock cycle basically to access the data. The tighter the timings, the faster the RAM typically will be in its latency and reaction speed. Right off the bat, we got 84 gigabytes per second, or 84,000 megabits per second. I'm not sure if it's megabytes or megabits, but I think it's megabits. And then we got 98,500. Sorry about that. I bumped the camera. So we're getting noticeably more performance out of the memory in the Legion 9i because we have the DDR5 6400 speed on it and the tighter timings. Notice the timings here being 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 95 with a command rate of 2. So that CL40 timing helping out as well. And this is utilizing the XMP Profile 1 in the BIOS. There are 2 profiles. I'm not sure about the differences between them. XMP Profile 2 might actually be slightly tighter timings or slightly higher speed. I'm not sure. I did not test it. But just making it clear what we're testing it with. And if you're curious about how to set up your XMP profile in your Legion 9i, I went through all of that, went through the BIOS setup and everything in my Legion 9i unboxing, which you can find on my channel in the live streams section. Okay, so latency right now at 76.8 nanoseconds. Let me try to zoom in just a bit more and reposition these windows a little bit better. Okay, it doesn't want me to reposition the window. Yeah, it doesn't want me to do any repositioning right now because we're doing a test, I guess, so that's fine. Okay, so 86 for our latency on the Pro 7i versus 76. So again, faster response time. Our write for the L1 cache, though, has gone down on the Legion 9i. So 2,500. Let me just move both of these mice over here so I can use this. So 2,500, 6,200, and on the Pro 7i, 3,300 and 6,400. So faster speeds on the L1 cache for the Pro 7i. This is something I noticed that as I overclocked the Kingston Fury Impact RAM and the SK Hynix RAM, the primary memory speeds went up and the latency went down, which is good, but our L1, L2 cache actually got a little bit worse, which was interesting, an interesting trend for at least the L1 cache. This could also be slight testing variances too in the mix here, but L2 cache, 1286, so again, a little faster on the Pro 7i. This is a little bit slower though. The L2 cache write speed is a little slower. Also a little slower on the copy speed on the L2. Very interesting. I don't like, and see, part of this is like, how does this actually affect real world performance? Like, oh, this game really wants L1 or L2 cache. I'm not sure about all of those specifics. This is just a synthetic test. But I do know that latency and overall read and write speed is important when you're accessing game files and you want to be able to have the fastest 1% low performance and stuff like that. In theory, those things matter a lot, especially when you're dealing with a lot of game assets. So keep in mind that we are doing 32 gig DDR5 RAM for the Legion 9i and 16 gigs DDR5, so 5600. So it's lower density RAM in the 2 8 gig sticks. So looking at the L3 cache, we're faster again on the Pro 7i. For the read, a little bit slower on the write and quite a bit faster on the copy. Interesting. There's the results, at least for the trial version of Ada64. I'll need to, like I said, get a full licensed version of some memory testing application software for future laptop videos. It's something that I would like to incorporate in more of my testing. Okay, so we are ready to go into Apex Legends. We're going to start our game testing now. Let's see. Okay, let me just verify. I need to add this. Need to add the launch command for the Pro 7i. Rafiki says, do you recommend turning off the iGPU in the BIOS if the laptop is connected to an external monitor? I currently am in dedicated GPU only mode. You can change that strictly from the Lenovo Vantage software. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that in the BIOS. You can do that outside the BIOS. Okay, so I need to change one thing. I need to remove this label. There we go. So now we got very comparable displays there. Very good. Let's make sure that our resolution is correct. Okay, looks good. All right, we'll make sure that all of our settings are exactly the same. All right. Actually, let's put reflex enabled, 8 gigs. We'll do 16 for the anisotropic. All right, and then we're on all low settings. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we're on the exact same resolution and the exact same everything as far as I can tell. Sweet. So I guess I don't have these two added right now. Let's just hop into the firing range. I probably should just get this added. So these two can be into the same match. Let's see here. Add. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, we're going to add a friend so we can invite the other player to the match. There we go. Cool. Bada bing, bada boom. Cool beans. Oh, okay, there we go. Play. All right. Cool. So we are in a match together now. And we're going to do firing range first. I'm going to dim the Legion 9i display just a little bit, just for the sake of trying to get this to look a little more consistent. All right, so we're going to run out, or we're going to reset our FPS numbers. We're going to run down the hill together. So keep in mind, we're on the exact same settings and resolution in theory, at least. It's interesting that the Legion 9i seems to be performing a lot better. Look at our average FPS right now. 228 for the Pro 7i. Interesting, the GPU boost clock is even better on the Pro 7i, but the actual FPS is like 70 more on the Legion 9i for some reason. That is prompting me to verify that our settings are correct. Okay, so that's all those settings. Those settings look the same, I believe. Let me just verify the settings. Yep, as far as I can tell, we're on the exact same settings here. We're looking the exact same place. The FPS is vastly better on the Legion 9i for some reason. All right, so this is very interesting to me, and it makes me wonder how related it is to the RAM speed. Is this related to the RAM speed or not? Chat, you have any thoughts on this? This is interesting. 231 FPS, 229 on average, 158 for our 1% lows, 299 with 191 for our 1% lows. Huge difference in performance on almost the same hardware. Slightly better Ben CPU, better RAM in the Legion 9i. Those are the two core differences here. And a 70 FPS performance difference is insane to me. I have no clue why we would see this big of a difference. Aside from the RAM speed is the main indicator, right? I mean, even looking at our CPU boost clock is higher on the Pro 7i with more wattage on the Pro 7i, and yet the FPS is quite a bit better. All right, so let's go ahead and grab a gun with each of the characters here. And I don't know, I'll just shoot. I can't really aim very well, of course, with two of them at the same time, but I can get them set up. You know, looking the same way. And kind of roughly shoot the same direction. Okay, so we're going to reset our FPS counters again. Let's go ahead and reload this. Okay, so we're going to just aim in and start firing. Okay, so we're shooting at the same time. And we're going to go into a real match as well here. I'm curious if the real match will show this same level of performance improvement. This could be related to the RAM speed. Maybe Apex is very RAM sensitive. I don't know. That's my current theory, is that it's RAM sensitivity is what's going on here. I don't know. Very, very interesting though. Let's take a quick look at our temps. All right, 90 degrees on the Legion, 78 degrees on that CPU. Lower temps and lower wattage on the Legion 9i, CPU to CPU. RAM usage, we're actually using a lot more RAM on the Legion 9i at 16 gigs, all right, versus 9.5 gigs. That's another odd difference. 226 on average FPS, 156 for 1% lows, 296, which is very close to our maximum FPS. I think we would be hitting higher FPS if we didn't have a 300 FPS max. 183 for our 1% low. GPU wattage is also a little bit higher. I guess it just varies a bit, but very similar wattage, around 145 to 150-ish on both the Legion Pro 7i and Legion 9 with the same temps, very similar VRAM usage. Okay, and let's also take a quick look at how that integrated water cooling is doing on the Legion 9i. 98 degrees on the VRAM temps. All right, on the Pro 7i. 102 on the Legion 9i. So the Legion 9i actually has worse VRAM temps. Oh, why? Why did they try to do this water cooler loop without actually... It's actually going up to 104 degrees. It's actually much cooler on the Pro 7i. Oh, actually not that much cooler. Okay, a little bit cooler. Now it's 6 degrees difference. I mean, that's noticeable. I'm guessing what's happening is the water cooling loop is getting hotter and hotter and heating up, and then the heat pipes are doing a worse and worse job probably conveying the heat out the system, so the water cooling loop is probably saturating. Heat saturating is probably what's happening. So, very interesting. Love to see the difference in performance. Very interesting. Let's move on to a new area. We're going to go into a match together. And we'll look at the same exact area of the same map area, and we'll see. We'll see what kind of FPS we're getting, see if there's a similar difference in performance outside of the firing range. Okay, we're getting into a match now. Man, I have not been playing Apex much lately. I do miss it. 8 says it's the RAM. There's no other way to explain this margin of performance on the 9i. I think so too. That's I mean, I tend to agree. Like, I don't see... I think it's unlikely that there's some other reason. I mean, we're still seeing a huge difference in performance. 240 versus 300 in this scene. We are in the map right now. Oh, I bumped the camera. Gonna try not to bump it as much as I can. Keep in mind, it's gonna be very difficult for me to... very difficult for me to actually not bump the camera because I got 2 laptops and I got 2 mice and I got 2 keyboards I have to press. Managing here in this situation. So notice the VRAM temp is still higher on the the Legion 9. I don't freaking get it. Okay, all right. This guy's the jump master. Cool. We'll reset. And I think we're going to try to go somewhere where there's going to be nobody to shoot us. Well, hopefully near enough some activity, but also not anywhere where we're going to get shot at. At least not right away. All right, so we'll go over here. Yeah, let's go over here. Okay, so I did reset our FPS, by the way, a little bit ago. The Legion 9 still crushing the frames, the frame rate massively. Like a huge lead. The thing is though, visually, the Pro 7i actually may still have a distinct advantage. All right. Okay, so let's just let's go hang out together right here. We'll look at the same exact spot on the map and do another FPS check. So here on the map, it appears to be even easier to run than the firing range because we're hitting higher FPS on both the Pro 7i and the Legion 9. The Legion 9, of course, bumping into our 300 FPS cap more easily, apparently. Let's go ahead and just turn. If we turn this way, that gives us maybe a better example of the differences here, because 225 versus 297. Wow. Let's move on and go for a run. So is it worth it getting that 6400 RAM upgrade? It certainly seems like it would probably be worth it. Oh man, playing 2 players is very difficult to do. Okay, let's go over. There we go. All right, and let's look at the exact same spot. There we go. New test area. 197, 200 versus 284. I mean, I think we've established a consistent pattern of massive performance gains in Apex Legends with the 9i. I don't know. To me, it seems like there may be something else going on here that's hard to pinpoint down what's happening. I want to do a quick task manager check. I want to do a quick, make sure nothing is going on in the background or something. Because that's a huge difference in performance. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're theoretically, the Legion 9i is 165 hertz display. So if you're playing on the native display, it might be a little bit smoother on the Pro 7i. But counterpoint to that is the 1% low performance always being better on the Legion 9i. And the overall FPS, slightly updating the refresh to the display a little bit faster, which could, in theory, also improve performance. Yeah, very improve responsiveness, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So interesting to me. This whole thing is so interesting to me. Extrude says there's something wrong with the Legion 7. The GPU usage is 70% on Legion 7, 90% on Legion 9. Well, right now we're getting 92% GPU utilization on the Legion 7, 75, 83% on the Legion 9. So we're actually getting less GPU utilization on the Legion 9 and more FPS. And I think that translates directly with the memory speed is what I'm thinking, is that we're just the memory speed right now in the Pro 7i is bottlenecking performance in the game. That's my current best guess scenario of what's going on right now. Unless there's something else that comes up that seems more plausible, I think that's what makes sense. So I guess let's just go ahead and do a bit of a run. I'm going to reset our FPS counter once again, and we're just going to let this person kill us. There's a person. They're not killing us, though. What is this? What is this? Hello. Okay, all right, there you go. There's the Apex Legends test. Let's move on to the next game. Super interesting initial result. Much more interesting than I thought was going to be for the first test. Okay, next game on the list, Warzone 2, another potentially memory-sensitive game. So this one's going to be also very interesting. Now, I did take the time to create a second Steam account that has access to Warzone 2, as far as I know. I think this is going to work well. We'll find out if we can get into a 2-person party and go into a map or not. This is going to be interesting. Overall, do you think that the 4090 is reliable for playing at 4K resolution? In some benchmarks, the results seem to fall a bit short, in my opinion. I think it depends on the type of player you are, because if you are a gamer that like, well, first of all, personally, I don't feel like the difference between like 2560 by 1600 to 4K on a laptop display is really worth the extra resolution increase. If you're going to use a giant external display like a large TV or something, or a big monitor on a desk, that's where I think using an external monitor could be a real advantage. I think that overall, you probably will be able to play nearly all games in 4K if you're okay with, like, you know, in the AAA titles like Starfield, right? And so especially unless you add the DLSS frame gen mod, the performance is going to be pretty dang lackluster in 4K on a laptop 4090. Even on a desktop 4090, the performance is pretty lackluster. Because Starfield is insane, insanely not optimized well, and the lack of DLSS also really hurts Starfield performance. So as long as you mod and optimize your games, I think 4K is going to be very viable on an external, some type of external display. Maybe if you have a 17-inch or 18-inch laptop display, a little bit more noticeable to get the 4K difference, but still, even then, I think it's not much of a difference between 2560 by 1600. And generally, I'd recommend 2560 by 1600 as the sweet spot for a 4080 and 4090. So, okay, let's verify our graphics settings is the same resolution and all of that jazz. So 2560 by 1600, refresh rate is obviously better on the Pro 7i. Let's go to the quality settings. Minimum DLSS on quality. Yep, that's correct. Quality settings on the Pro Legion 9. Minimum DLSS on quality. Very good. So we're already matching our graphics settings. Let's see if we can add each other in this. Let's go to Warzone Battle Royale. Let's see here. How do we invite player, invite to party? Boom. Play a game. Cool. Are we in the same session yet? It says it's joining the game session, but I'm not seeing it. I guess I'll re-invite myself. This is interesting. Let me see if I can get us in the same session here. Social invite. It's getting stuck on joining game session. So this is the first time. Let me try doing the reverse. Let me try inviting in reverse here. This is hilarious. They made it so difficult. Okay. Sweet. We're in the same now, finally. Took a while. All right, so here we go. So you can see we're in the same party now. Let's go ahead and start the search. Pablo H wants to know, what would you choose, guys? Scar 18 or Raider GE78? That's a tough call, and I would definitely have to factor in pricing between that. The main advantage for me with the GE78 is it's certainly more portable at 17 inches. I like that. It's got more metal on the build with the GE78. The Scar 18 has liquid metal. The GE78 might have faster RAM or slower RAM, depending on which model you get. MSI's BIOS is maybe a little bit more fully featured, but Asus's internal software support, I think, is a little better. A lot of trade-offs between those two. A lot of trade-offs. I think both would be about the same level of choice. Windows Hello on the MSI GE78 might be enough to swing it for me. To swing it over to the GE78 for me. I don't know. You got G-Sync and Advanced Optimus, though, on the Scar 18. That's a pretty big counter feature. So... is the 9i on the left or right? 9i is on the right. This is the 9i. I have the labels just below me right here for the specs as well as the everything else. So Call of Duty Warzone, a very CPU-bound game, right? It's going to be very interesting to see how the memory performance impacts Warzone here between these two laptops, as well as the CPU performance. So, yeah. Again, looking at our RAM, we're using 5 gigs more on the 32 gigs of DDR5 6400 on the Legion 9i. That might be Windows utilizing that RAM. I don't know. Okay, so right now, our FPS is in the similar ballparks to one another. Obviously, different areas of the map. Someone is murdering one of my characters right now. The Legion 9i, oddly enough, is not doing super great, in my opinion. We get a replay of us being murdered. It's kind of hilarious. But notice that the Pro 7i doing 165 FPS, 146. The 9i, 140. We're getting more performance now on the Pro 7i. At least in theory. All right, so here's an area where we're getting the exact same thing rendered here. Yeah, look at this. We're getting significantly more performance with the Pro 7i here. 191 FPS versus 160. Even the 1% lows are better with the Pro 7i. And I think the big difference here is the CPU wattage. 81 watts of CPU juice going through there. And only 56 on the Pro 7i. So we're going to just drop at the same time and try to land on that museum, I guess. I don't know. Cool. All right. We'll reset our FPS counter. We're looking at the exact same areas of the map right now. Pretty much, at least. And, yeah, look at us. 20 more FPS now on the Pro 7i. And I think it's got to be the CPU. The CPU wattage here is higher. Our boost clock is higher. Our GPU temps are similar, but the wattage is actually a bit better on the Pro 7i, doing 90 watts. I feel like maybe the Legion 9i would do better in custom mode. I don't know. it's just so interesting that this is like an inversion of the performance we had in the last game. You know, it seemed like the Legion 9i. So when I unboxed Legion 9i, it seemed like it underperformed, at least in this game. Let me just pop over to here. Let's flip it into custom mode. Everything is turned up to max in custom mode. See if that makes any difference. Okay, so there is custom mode now on the Legion 9i. Custom mode is not enabled though on the Pro 7i. Maybe I should enable it on both. But notice the wattage pull is much higher on the CPU now on the Legion 9i. That was the key. Basically, the Legion 9i has a bit of a gimped CPU wattage. At least in the BIOS, the way Lenovo has tuned it out of the box is not as good in performance mode. Okay, so if I put the Pro 7i also into custom mode, custom mode, all sliders to the right. All right, so now they're both in max performance custom mode now. There it is. Can you see the visual difference on the displays right now too? The mini LED is looking a lot better. Like the contrast, the dynamic range of the clouds is visible. You know, like the HDR of the clouds here, quite a noticeable difference of visual clarity, like to my eyes as well. Like I cannot see these clouds very well. On the Pro 7i, I can easily see these clouds on the Legion 9. And that's the mini LED display. So looking at our actual numbers here, wow, someone didn't kill us. They walked by us. I think they ran over the top of us. Okay. Overall, we're getting much tighter performance, but the Pro 7i is still outperforming. All right, and this is not in, you know, this is in both custom mode, you know. So overall, I would say the Pro 7i wins this, but if you can tune the Legion 9i, it's going to be very similar, right? It's not going to be too much of a difference. I would say the win that Apex Legends had with the 9i was massive. Where the win with the Pro 7i was not as big. We're going to try to do Team Suicide Squad in the water. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so there you go. There's your Warzone benchmark that gives you, should be a pretty dang good performance example where it really may not matter that much, or maybe things like the L2 cache or L1 cache matter more in certain games. All right. Cool beans. Let's go back to performance mode on these laptops. So we're going to do performance mode, and we're going to do performance mode. Shaboom, shaboom. And we'll exit that. All right, so next up we have Counter-Strike 2. Dun, dun, dun. The newly updated shooter game. Props to this lobby for letting us benchmark in peace. I know, right? Like I had people running right by me and no one shot me. I think they just ran right over the top. Like I think they literally jumped over the top of our heads, our character heads. I don't think they did that on purpose. Okay, so let's see if we can add. Can we add a friend? Join. Yes, we are in the same lobby. Let's play. Do we have... Got to make sure that developer console is enabled. And we'll turn on our FPS counters. There we go. Looks like the menus are being restricted to 120 FPS. So just to verify that we're on the exact same settings. It should be the same settings. Enabled, disabled, high, 4x MSA, high. Yeah, so we're just going to use the just all default settings. All right, and we're just going to hop into... yeah. We'll just go into a casual map. Oh, deathmatch. Yeah, casual's better. Cause with casual, we'll be able to get to the same area. I think, at least in theory. Do I need to ready up on this at all? No. Okay. Looks like we're going on both of the systems. All right. Both systems, both displays right now are set to maximum possible brightness. Which chassis gets hotter? That would be the Legion 9i. Definitely the Legion 9i. So for this segment, I'm going to be turning to the left a little bit. All right, and we'll do max FPS at 1,000. It's a shame I can't get the FPS counter to be in a different spot. Can I just spectate? This would be better. Okay, so now we're spectating on both of them at the same time. So we're getting the exact same image on the display, so we can compare our FPS quite a bit better this way. So I wish the we're not quite getting as much brightness on the Pro 7i display. In the top left, I'm rotating the camera around a little bit here. Okay. There we go. Wow, it's very, very close performance here between these two. But, man, I wish there was a way for me to see the max possible FPS. Or like the average FPS. Counter-Strike 2 blocks the overlays though, so no way to really tell as far as I can tell. But it seems to me that the FPS is so similar that it's hard to see much of a performance difference here. Do you think the Pulse 154070 is better than the Katana 154070? If the Pulse 15 has a better display, you get the Pulse 15 with a better display, then yeah, it will be better, in my opinion. The chassis between the two is almost the same though. So, but if the display's better, go with the Pulse 15. Almost everything else about between those laptops should be pretty similar. You can toggle Steam overlay FPS counter. It's better. Okay, so Steam overlay FPS counter. Where do I see that? Is that in settings here? In-game FPS counter. Let's do, let's try top right. I don't know. That's pretty small up there. It's way smaller text. I don't think it's actually any better, to be honest with you. And it doesn't appear to be accurate either. It seems to be underestimating quite a bit compared to the other counter. So, I mean, I think this is probably your most realistic estimation here. Basically, between 300 to 400 FPS, like in that range of FPS most of the time. Right there, it seems like the Pro 7i is actually doing slightly better FPS, but it's very close. Overall, I mean, in Counter-Strike 2, I feel like I'm just going to chalk it up as a tie. It's too close to call one way or the other. All right. So, either way, you're going to have just absolutely phenomenal performance in Counter-Strike 2 with no issues at all playing this game at the max FPS. Okay. Next game up, God of War. Now this one will be interesting because it's a AAA title, GPU bound typically, so memory speed should not impact performance much, if at all. And yeah, so this one should, in theory, be very competitive. Okay, just verifying our settings real quick. 2560 by 1600 on quality. All right, and DLSS 2560 by 1600. Oh, I guess our graphic settings are on Ultra. Yes, that's correct. Let's make sure our graphic settings are on Ultra. That is correct. Okay, so we have correct graphical settings on both laptops right now. Loaded in the exact same area. How's our performance looking? Is it interesting? So, let's evaluate. Okay, so starting off, let's change the camera angle a little better so it's a little easier to see our numbers. But let's keep it looking basically exactly the same path. Okay, cool. All right, we're going to reset our averages now. Okay. Here we are. GPU is a few degrees warmer on the Pro 7i, and we also have a few more watts going through that CPU. That could just be that the i9 13980HX is a little bit more power efficient. RAM, again, we're using a few more gigs on the 32 gig set. 120 FPS right now with the Legion 9i. 111 on the Pro 7i. So neither of the RAM sticks are being maxed by any means. 1% low performance is massively better with the Pro 7i. Look at that, 111 FPS, but our 1% low of 98, that's almost double the Legion 9i, 1% lows. Look at our GPU wattage, 173. The GPU boost clock, 2365. Much better GPU performance coming out of the Pro 7i right now than the Legion 9i. Like, in my opinion, like, even though the average FPS is better on the Legion 9i right now, the actual gaming experience will be better on the Pro 7i because of the 1% lows being such a valuable thing. Now, we're going to do our actual run around test and see what kind of 1% low performance we get. You know, what I'm seeing here is when you look at our frame time graph, you know, I am seeing more little frame stutters on the Pro 7i as I move around. But the way Afterburner is calculating everything, it's much higher on the Pro 7i. All right, let's go run to our starting point on both laptops. I also want to point out our VRAM temperatures now that we've been in here for a while. 108 degrees Celsius on the Legion 9i. All right, 110. Yikes. I believe 110 is going to be the max temp for VRAM, if I am not mistaken. And maybe it can go higher, but I think 110 is where we might start seeing some GPU thermal throttling. Super interesting. Are the slim models better than the regular? That's a great question. Let me finish this test. I would say, briefly answering that question, slim, like Legion 5 Slim, Legion 7 Slim, they're not much slimmer than the Legion Pro 5 or Pro 7. Like, they're just a little bit more slim. But I would say in my experience, my Slim 5 was, I think, a little bit better than my Pro 5. But that's also going to vary a lot depending on the money and how much everything is. Because I think the Slim costs a little bit more. Okay. We have reset our average. Let's walk it. Wha-bam. Okay, so there's our average test. Wow. Wow. What an interesting result. I mean, latest BIOS, latest driver updates. 122 FPS versus 108. But better 1% lows on the Pro 7i. Though I gotta say, when we started running, the 1% lows did not make as big a difference. It's only 52 versus 39. So I would say that when they're this close for 1% lows, and you have a higher FPS average, I would give the win to the Legion 9 at this point. But it's so interesting, the boost clock we're getting on the Legion 9i is so much lower. And notice that we were doing higher boost clock, and we keep, I think we're dropping our boost clock because of our VRAM temperature. 110 is I think that's thermal throttling for the VRAM. So I think we're bouncing into that thermal throttle range with the VRAM on the water cooler loop. Despite that, we're still getting better performance. Our actual averages are better, which is super interesting to me. All right, I just reset the benchmark counter. Let's see, just let it run for a minute. Again, much higher GPU boost clock on the Pro 7i, higher GPU wattage on a consistent basis, non-stop thermal throttling, though I'm pretty sure over here on the Legion 9i VRAM. So yeah, yikes. All right, that's interesting. I mean, the performance is still really good, but yeah, that memory is getting spicy. It's pretty common, as far as I know, for VRAM to run that hot. And I have ran plenty of laptops run, I think, at that temperature for VRAM, no problem. But still, I'm pretty sure that we're running into GPU throttling because of the VRAM temps. I'm glad that we're adding VRAM to the benchmarking graphs now, so we can monitor VRAM temps on all the laptops going forward. Very interesting. This is another way that we can be potential. Yeah, look at this. We are temperature throttling. See that? It says temperature throttling. We are definitely being throttled because of the VRAM temp. Interesting. Ooh, very interesting. Now, keep in mind, right? Like if I show you this, these laptops are pretty close together. So we've got heat overlap right here. Normally, temperatures would be better on both of these devices, okay? Please keep that in mind. Overall, I give the win to the Legion 9i in that game, despite the thermal throttling. And like I said, I would expect the thermal throttling to be much less or much lower under typical workloads when you're not side by side with another laptop, you know, so please keep in mind, temperatures would be better normally. Okay, so we're loading into Cyberpunk 2077. Livy Anima says, I want to remind the 9i has an AI chip that controls wattage, and it seems when you turn tuning custom profile, chip is turning it off. So Livy, both the Pro 7i and the 9i have an AI chip. And right now in the Lenovo Vantage software, both of them are disabled. We're not running with the chip, the AI chip on either laptop right now. Austin's finally going to order his laptop. Acer Nitro 5, i7-12650H, RTX 4060. All right, 16 gigs DDR5, 512 gig SSD, 11 home for $1,000. Should be good, man. I think that's a good all-around deal. As long as the display is a close to 100% sRGB, then you're probably not going to get much better than that for a little while at least. All right, so we're going to load into Cyberpunk 2077. We're going to make sure that we're at the correct resolution and that we're matching the exact same settings. So I did have to change. All right, so ray tracing ultra, textures on high. We'll put DLSS on quality. Looks like everything is a bit fuzzy right now. Let me reposition the camera. Interesting. I think that's as good as we're going to get right now. All right, so there we go. Ray tracing ultra, textures on high, DLSS on quality, frame generation is enabled. We're going to go ahead and run benchmark on both laptops. Let's see who wins in Cyberpunk 2077. Interesting. right out the gate, we have a 10 FPS lead for the Legion 9i. I'm reducing camera exposure. I think that'll help with the display a little bit. Okay, so, wow. Right now, the Legion 9 doing about 8 FPS more. Again, I think probably because of the RAM speed, and our 1% low is also looking better on the Legion 9, at least so far. CPU wattage, once again, the Legion Pro 7 pulling higher CPU wattage, but it's not translating into better actual rendered performance. I think that RAM speed is helping again. Pretty sure. Austin says 100% sRGB and 300 nits. Then yeah, that's a good deal, man. I hope you enjoy the laptop. Let me know what you think of it. Okay, so we ended up getting 103 FPS on the Pro 7i, 111 FPS on the Legion 9i. That's a solid, large margin victory for the Legion 9i. We'll go ahead and run it one more time just to verify our results for the fun of it. But I'm very impressed overall with the Legion 9i in this game in particular. All right, we've refreshed our FPS. So GPU boost clock is very close, neck and neck in this title. GPU boost clock being right here. They're within like 10 or 15 of each other pretty much constantly. GPU temps are looking a little better on the Pro 7i. CPU wattage really is the biggest difference here. Pulling higher CPU wattage on the i9 13900HX of the Pro 7i and higher temps on the CPU. But despite that, the actual rendered performance on the 9i is better for both our 1% low performance being 74 versus 89, and our overall average is also better. So I think this is a pretty clear victory for the for the Legion 9i. Yeah, 12% better, 1% lows, and 9 FPS, or I guess 8.3 FPS better for our average. Okay, next up we have Hogwarts. Choo-choo, choo-choo-choo. Okay. Austin says, should I get a cooling pad for the Acer Nitro 5? You can if you want. It will make the laptop probably last a little bit longer. In theory, at least, unless you drop it and break it or something. But the main advantage is if you get a cooling pad is it's just you don't have to run the fans as high of an RPM to get the same temperatures. So, and then in addition, the other big advantage, if you get a laptop cooling pad like the IETS GT500, I know there's other ones too, that have a air filter in the back of the cooling pad that helps filter all the dust out before it gets in your laptop, or at least a lot of it, can really help prevent dust buildup in your laptop, which means you don't have to clean your fans as often. So I think those are probably the two biggest things: slightly reduced temps or potentially lower fan noise and lower fan RPMs, which means that your fan motors in your laptop can last a little bit longer. Because those are one of the most common things that fail in laptops is the fan motors of the fans. Yeah. Cool. We're in. We're loading. We're loading. I did try to position me already at the right spot in both saves, but let's see if it did that correctly. This is actually the this is actually my fully beaten. I have beaten the game on right here. I actually, beat the game. So I got all these legendary high level equipments with 380 defense, 380 offense. That's pretty high. So I can pretty much kill everything very quickly now, even on hard difficulty. Love it. Okay, all right, now that I'm done showing off. I'm a Harry Potter nerd to the max. Read all the books like twice. Listened to the audiobooks twice. Played all of the I didn't play all the games, but I played this game all the way through. Okay, so yeah, let's just go our initial run through. We're going to try to navigate the sidewalk. It's very difficult to do this. It's interesting. There's quite a bit of different color grading on one of the systems versus the other. Let's make sure our graphics settings are the same in both. All right, so DLSS on quality, frame generation enabled, uncapped frame rate, ultra low, RTX enabled. And then on the left over here, ultra low, or ray tracing enabled, DLSS on quality, frame generation enabled. So everything is set the same. It's just different color grading in the scene. I don't think that's going to impact performance very much, but I just want to make a note of it, that it's possible that it could impact performance. Okay, so now we're going to run backwards. All right, I'm going to go ahead and reset the FPS counter just for fun. This is not an official test yet, but we're running back the way we came. How's our performance looking? Wow, it's pretty similar, but we do have higher FPS average on the Legion 9i again. Okay, so here we are. Let me just double check everything, that everything's looking good. Quick evaluation before we actually start the test here. We've got higher CPU wattage once again on the Pro 7i. It's like, why didn't they give us the option to get the higher end CPU on the Pro 7i? Doesn't make any sense to me. It would have been nice to pay $100 more to get the higher end CPU. I don't know. That would have been nice. Okay. We are running in potentially into RAM limitations here at 15 gigs here. All right. So I want to point that out. 104 FPS, 114 FPS, slightly different scene yet. We're not actually doing the full test yet. 77 degrees, 76 degrees, very similar GPU temps. GPU utilization is higher on the Legion Pro 7i. The Pro 7i doing higher GPU utilization, but higher FPS and lower GPU utilization on the Legion 9i. To me, that indicates that the RAM speed is boosting our performance once again. We also may be running into the RAM limitations here in Hogwarts, where this is kind of one of the games where I wish I had ordered a 32 gig kit with my Pro 7i so I could do parity testing a little bit better. Okay, here we go. We're going to start our official test. The weather is not quite perfect. I wish the weather was perfectly matching. Pretty sure the weather is very random in this game. It's hard to get it to do what you want. All right, let's finish this out. Okay, so, wow. Pretty big advantage right now to the Legion 9i. 108 FPS versus 94 gives us a nice sizable chunk advantage to Legion 9. Now, it is raining on the Pro 7i. That could literally affect performance. I mean, we could see if we could get the exact same weather cycle and retest maybe. Let's see here. We can go into the map and we can hit F to wait. And we might have to wait a full 24-hour period. And then wait another 24-hour period. Maybe it won't be raining this next day. Okay, looks like it's not raining now. I mean, we could try redoing the test and seeing how rain affects things. Certainly a lot different color grade on the display still. But no rain. You know, I'm mainly thinking the rain might affect performance with the ray tracing. You know, reflecting the light off of the concrete. Maybe more demanding when it's raining. So that's why I'm thinking I want to redo the test. But it doesn't seem to actually be fixing performance at all. You notice? The performance we were getting is so similar to what we were doing before. But just to verify, it only takes another, 30 seconds or whatever to verify this. Let's go ahead and do our test. Okay, so that time, yeah, it looks like the rain did affect our performance because we ended up getting the exact same FPS here, 105 versus 105. Our 1% low was actually a little bit lower than that, but very similar FPS now. Looking at our CPU temperature, though, 96 on the Pro 7i. That's pretty spicy. 80 watts over here. 82 watts or 82 degrees on the CPU, 55 watts on the CPU. The CPU pulling a lot less wattage and being a lot more power efficient to put up the same FPS. Our 1% lows were pretty similar. The average went up after we stopped the test there. So you'd have to look at the replay right as we got up to the stand if you want to know the exact amounts. GPU temps, so similar. Overall performance, very similar in this game, though, yeah, very interesting. Rancid says the power balancing is being skewed to the GPU. Something's wrong with the Legion 9i. So the interesting thing is we're actually using less CPU wattage up here and less GPU wattage quite frequently, 35 watts versus 146 watts. I mean, it's jumping up and down on both, but I think the GPU priority is the same. I think that the Lenovo team just designed the Legion 9i to use less CPU wattage. That's basically my best understanding. So So yeah, I'm glad we redid the test. I don't think that, I don't think there's a massive performance difference here. Maybe we had slightly better 1% lows on the Legion 9i, but I think it was very, very similar. Too similar than to know for sure that there was much of a difference. Let's move into our next test, Dead Space. The Legion 9i starts to throttle at 85 degrees on the CPU, regardless of what is programmed in custom as the limit there. Meanwhile, the limit is at 95 degrees Celsius on every other laptop. You can see the thermal limit hit of 85 degrees, which is low. Kaylin, I'm not sure that that's true. Interesting observation. Let's take a look at that and pay attention to that. We'll probably hit higher temps in this game, most likely. We'll find out. It seems to me like they limited it to 55 watts. Like I see 55 up here all the time. And I don't see us hitting I don't see us hitting the CPU temps. I see us hitting 55 watts. I think we're being power limited to 55, where in the Legion Pro 7i, they set the power limit to 80. That's my current observation. I mean, I appreciate the input. I don't know. I'm not sure. All right, unless there's some other reason to think otherwise, I think that's my current belief. Is that it's a power limit, they're not actually thermal throttling. And like I said, temps right now are going to be worse than standard testing, all right? Because the laptops are right next to each other, and they're shuffling hot air between one another. All right, so ultra settings, DLSS on quality, no ray tracing. We'll continue. All right, so let's see what we get here. Yeah, I think the reason why the Pro 7i is clocking higher is because of the extra wattage. That's the best understanding. But I think that a lot of these games don't actually need the additional wattage. I think some of these games that we're seeing performance advantage go to the Legion 9i is because the RAM speed. Like the CPU isn't the actual bottleneck. The RAM speed is actually the bottleneck. And I think that may be the case right now in Dead Space even. So 81 degrees on the CPU. We're not thermal throttling. We're not hitting 85 at least, like what you were saying, Kaylin. 55 watts being hit pretty consistently. 148 on the watts on the GPU. 78, 79 on the GPU. Pretty spicy on the GPU on both systems, about the same, 79, 79. But the CPU is the spicy one here at 94 on the Legion Pro 7i because we're pulling that extra wattage. As far as I can tell, that's the reason. Let's go ahead and start moving. Voila. Voila. And right now, our average FPS is higher on the Legion 9i by 4. Our 1% lows are also better by about 10. Really good 1% lows right now on the Legion 9i. Usually, it's worse than this. And when we tested it last time, it was worse than this. Dead Space 1% lows were like 25 when we did the unboxing, I think. the fact that we're doing 63 right now is really good. Okay, so we're going to turn this puppy around to get ready for our actual benchmark here. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and reset our benchmark numbers and start the benchmark run. VRAM temps are very similar, 104, 106. We're not thermal throttling there. Our GPU wattage seems to be pretty similar in the 140 to 150 range on both. Really, the CPU wattage is the main differentiator here, and that's also causing our FPS, our CPU temps to be a little higher. And our overall performance, though, is better on the Legion 9i, and I gotta attribute that to the RAM speed. As far as I can tell, we got 7 more FPS on the Legion 9i. Again, RAM speed, I think, making the difference there. 1% lows, very, very good. 57 and 61 now. Mike, yeah, it should be just plug and play, but you'd want to probably go into the BIOS and see if you can access the XMP profiles. I'm not sure if you'll be able to, but it is an XMP certified RAM kit. So in theory, the BIOS should have XMP profiles that you should be able to just pop in there and switch it. Lenovo's BIOS is not as customizable as XMGs are, because XMG requires additional tuning. When I put the Kingston Fury Impact RAM in my Blade 18, Mike, it instantly went to the DDR5 5600, but CL40 and tighter timings. So it's still a performance improvement over the SK Hynix RAM I had that was at less tight timings. So I'm glad I did the upgrade because it's only 140 bucks and it's upgrading a $4,400 machine. Seems super worth it to me. But yeah. And if you're unsure that it's going to benefit you very much, I know Newegg does have a pretty generous return policy, better than Amazon typically. Depends on the Amazon. So Legion 9i wins Dead Space. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is the next game that we're testing. You got the Pro 7i with the 4090 and absolutely love it. Nice. Yeah, it's a nice machine. I mean, there's not much to complain about it. There's ways that it could definitely be a little bit better, but yeah. So we're doing highest settings. Whoop. Exclusive full screen. $2560 by 1600. Highest settings with ray tracing on Ultra. All right, set all those settings exactly the same. Are you able to manually add another 32 gig 64 to the i9? No, because there's two 16 gig sticks in there already. You could do 64 gigs. But if you upgrade to 64 gig RAM density, it doesn't run as fast. And if you order 64 gigs, typically it's clocked to 5200 mega transfers instead of 5600. So it's a downgrade even from the standard RAM in terms of speed. But if you get the 64 gig sticks from Lenovo, they rate them at DDR5 5600, which is overclocked by 400. So you may not realize it, but it's actually an overclocked RAM when you get the 64 gig sticks from Lenovo. That said, unless you have a specific application that needs 64, I do recommend 32 because you get faster speed. Faster speed, better performance, costs a little bit less money. And if you're manually buying RAM, I recommend checking out my Kingston Fury Impact video. I made a video testing it. It was good. I really liked the RAM, and it seemed to run well. It seemed to give a performance improvement, at least somewhat, in certain, like Warzone, Apex Legends probably. I don't know for sure if the Kingston Fury Impact RAM will be overclockable to 6400 with the 9i or the Pro 7i though. So I would look for user verification that those are actually overclockable. But at very least, you'll get to 5600 with those, with CL40 timings at 32 gigs. Okay. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. We are ready to go. I want to point out here in the menu, we're doing 240 FPS versus 302 FPS in the menu, our little menu benchmark here, 60 FPS difference. Not really a benchmark, but you know, it's kind of a 3D environment behind the menu. But again, so Shadow of the Tomb Raider, a fairly RAM sensitive game, at least at lower resolutions. And maybe really simple environments, it'll be more RAM sensitive. Or maybe with lots of NPCs, it'll also be more RAM sensitive. I don't know. So here we are. Wow. This is an interesting difference in performance right here. Look at it. 20 FPS more with the Legion 9i right now. Again, Shadow of the Tomb Raider tends to be a more RAM sensitive game. I should really upgrade my lens, I think, to one that has higher well, you know, maybe I can manually change the aperture in this. I should try to manually change the aperture so that I can have a bigger focal range. Should help the text look clearer on the MSI Afterburner overlays. So I wouldn't pay attention to our 1% lows, just looking at their averages for this, because the 1% lows gets messed up when it jumps to the menus. But you can see that frame time graph. It is a cleaner frame time graph on the 9i versus the Pro 7i. More little blips where probably the memory is bottlenecking the system a little bit. So we're loading. I will try to refresh. There, I just refreshed our FPS counters again. So, wow, we had some bad 1% low performance on both systems for a moment there. You know, we're getting consistently better GPU wattage on the Legion Pro 7i, but that's not always translating to actually better performance. I mean, look at these little frame time blips over here. Look at the little frame time blips. Look at how clean this frame time graph is over on the Legion 9i. It's just cleaner with that faster RAM. We're getting higher FPS in general, 204 versus 173, 62, 64. So about 50% overall improvement to our 1% lows, at least for right now. It's going up and down a lot right now though. So you really got to wait to the end, but just know that the 1% lows are noticeably better on the Legion 9i as well, despite the CPU pulling less wattage. Mr. Farcycle says, watched your unboxing of the 9i yesterday. Pleasant to see better 1% lows in Dead Space. Yeah, it was really oddly low 1% lows in my first unboxing test of Dead Space. Look at that. 160 FPS versus 134. Wow. That is, wow. I was not expecting that big of a performance difference in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Memory speed matters a lot more, I think, than what most people give it credit for. So 24,700 frames rendered versus 20,500 frames rendered, 160 versus 134. That's a 26 FPS advantage. And that's a massive performance improvement. So yeah. Beautiful. All right, so next up we have Baldur's Gate 3. So Baldur's Gate 3, probably going to get Game of the Year this year, or maybe Starfield will, but I'm thinking Baldur's Gate 3 will get it. RPG, extremely detailed, beautiful world with very interesting characters. The game averages really high FPS. 1% lows have not really been amazing typically. It's a very, it's a turn-based game. There's a lot of calculating that has to go on with the game. Under typical circumstances, you know, you have a lot of NPCs. It's turn-based, so it kind of stutters a little bit as it jumps between the characters sometimes. But at least in theory, it should be. I think it's pretty. I think it could be memory and CPU sensitive. I think. I don't know. We'll have to find out. Okay, so. Checking here, we'll do this save. Oh, I got to make sure that we're on the same exact settings. I also got to adjust this camera a little bit more to the left. There we go. And it's hard to get this thing to be exactly focused on both systems. Okay. I think that's going to be as good as we can get it. All right, it's time to verify that we have the exact same settings on both. So for video, we're going to do 2560 by 1600. No VSync, DLSS on quality. We're going to set it to ultra first, and then DLSS on quality. There we go. All right, and over here on the other computer, VSync is disabled. This should already be set to ultra, but we'll just reset it to make sure. And we'll do DLSS to quality. Okay, so here we are. Interesting. Very interesting results so far. Let's go ahead. I actually kind of want to load a different save. This save has a lot more NPCs, that's why. And it's the save I've been testing with the other laptops. I clicked on the wrong one. So better to do it this way. It looks like we're at a different resolution right now because the overlay is differently sized, so I better check the resolutions. Mr. Farcycle, have you done any testing on the 9i to see if the water cooling actually affects performance at all. So, I am really sorry to tell you, Mr. Farside, but it is actually probably a negative. A negative Ghost Rider on at least on terms of, does it improve performance? You can see, so the water cooling loop goes over the VRAM, and this is the VRAM temps. Right now you can see that we're hitting actually higher temps on the Legion 9i typically compared to the Pro 7i. So I would say that the integrated water cooling, in my opinion, is a fail. It's not good. It doesn't provide any benefit, and as a matter of fact, we thermal throttled on the Legion 9i when we were not thermal throttling on the Pro 7i. And yet, because I think of the RAM speed in the Legion 9i, we are seeing better performance in the 9i. Okay, so it looks like somehow we did not load the same game. Shattered Sanctum 1012. Load game. Shattered Sanctum 1012. This should be the same game. I don't know. We'll see. That looks good. Interesting. I promise we clicked on the exact same game. Save. I don't know. Okay. Let's see here. So we're going to click on her. All right. Cool. We're going to go ahead and start our test. We have started the test. We're going to go ahead and just end turn. And it should be doing the same set of NPC actions, or at least very similar set of NPC actions. Right now we're doing, again, higher CPU wattage on the Legion Pro 7i. The average FPS appears to be very similar, around the 220 to 230 range. And looks like now we're ready to continue. Continue. 1% lows appear to be slightly better on the Legion 9i. Again, probably because of the RAM. Ooh, he just shot an arrow at me. It's interesting. I think the goblins are making slightly different decisions, and it's affecting the how long this is taking. So it's hard to compare the FPS exactly because the AI is taking these goblins in slightly different directions, even though we're basing it off of the same exact save. Super interesting. Okay, so yeah, right now 231 FPS for the Legion 9i with slightly better 1% lows. I mean, it's so close. It's hard to say which one's that much better. I would say they're very similar. Obviously, an excellent gaming experience between either of the laptops. I wish the 1% low was a little bit better here in Baldur's Gate 3, but it's still obviously going to be a great gaming experience for pretty much anyone that wants to play this game because of the really, really high FPS. And I mean, usually the little stutters happen right when you're switching between different characters in the turn-based thing. Oh, it looks like we did Starfield out of order. Let's go into Starfield next. Okay. Mike Mishler says, Brandon, by the way, I really appreciate all these videos you do on these laptops. You are by far the most in-depth reviewer on YouTube. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, Mike. I'm just glad to be helpful. Okay. Mr. Farside says, pondering the 9i small discount through work was waffling between the 64 gig and faster 32 Definitely would recommend the 32 unless there's a specific reason that you need 64. Then obviously you have to get the 64. Big sneezies. Sorry, chat. Apologize about that. Is there a way for you to switch out the memory in the Pro 7i with 6400 memory and test it? Only if I took the time to do it, basically. It's just anything that I do takes time, right? So I have to figure out what's worth it and what's not worth it. And swapping all of that out would take a good amount of time. Okay, so we're going to do the ultra custom preset, but we're going to disable dynamic resolution because we don't want any computer finicky going on. All right. So this is the world of Aquila. Starfield being one of my favorite games, kind of, but not at the same time. It's not the kind of game I will play forever and ever because you will eventually run out of story, but it's the kind of game that I'm going to keep coming back to whenever they put out expansions. Does that make sense? Like I've played through the game main story now 4 times. I've prestiged through the game 4 times. I really loved it. But you kind of have to be a sci-fi nerd to love this game. That's kind of the reality of it. Okay, so we're going to restart our FPS averages in 3, 2, 1. And we're going to start, we'll sprint over here. All right, and from here, we will look towards the waypoint. A little to the left, a little to the left. Waypoint, and now we'll just walk the rest of the way. Cool. Okay, so right now, again, the CPU wattage in the Pro 7i is much higher at 80 watts versus 55 watts. Again, running into that 55 watt cap on the Legion 9i. And yeah, so there's our test. Let's take a look. Higher temps on the Pro 7i, higher wattage. GPU wattage is pretty similar. Again, we had higher average FPS with the 9i and higher 1% lows. Again, I think it's because of the faster RAM speed. RAM speed really making a difference in the vast majority of games. I mean, 3 FPS is not massive, but it's 5% when you're talking about this few of FPS. You add frame gen, that'll scale up better with frame gen to give you like maybe 10 additional FPS with frame gen or 5 additional FPS with frame gen. I don't know. It depends on how what settings you use and all that. Yeah, Aquila being one of the worst places in this game for testing settings. And I want to mention, if you add the DLSS frame gen mod, which I go over in my Starfield performance analysis video that I made on the main channel, it's a main video. Check that out. Go through how to install the DLSS frame gen mod. It's really not that hard. Only takes like 5 minutes at most to install. And once you get that thing installed, it gives you like a 60, 70, 80% performance uplift in this game. Because it's so CPU bound, frame gen is just massive. All right, so Witcher 3. Witcher 3. I was like, where did it go? Witcher 3. Here we go. Do 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 do. Yeah, Mr. Farside says, looking forward to what modders do with Starfield. Absolutely, the game is so moddable that I think like within 2 years, Starfield is not going to be the same game at all. Like I've already done a bunch of mods to improve like the UI. I have like 8 mods installed now on Starfield. I made it so merchants give you more money when you sell stuff, or they have more money in the bank, the merchant bank or whatever, so you can have You can sell more stuff at the merchants, like various different gameplay improvements. I installed a combat AI improvement mod. I have not tested that yet, but I just installed that yesterday. And yeah, probably the biggest thing for me I want to see is I want to see ship to ship flight. Like you get in your ship, you can take off from a solar system, you can fly from one planet to the next planet within a system through like a time lapse type of feature, rather than just doing only fast travel menus. And then the other big thing I want to see is lateral spaceship movement. I don't know if it'll be possible or not, but like in Elite Dangerous, you can fly your ship up, down, left, right, rudder turn on axis. And you can't do that in Starfield. It's all just pointing your mouse and turning it like this. So I want to see better. Basically flight model being implemented. I don't know if a modder will do that or not, but that's probably the biggest thing on my wish list. Okay, so we're on the same resolution. DLSS is enabled with FrameGen, DLSS on quality, ray tracing on ultra settings on both of these. So you can't really see that, but I guess there's the settings if you wanted to check them out. Ray tracing on ultra, DLSS on quality, display 2560 by 1600 on both. All right, let's go ahead and get loaded in. Eric Yap says, Legion 9i flips the motherboard just so liquid metal wouldn't leak. I believe that if you have a proper seal, it shouldn't leak whether it's flipped or not. And if it is a bad seal, it would probably leak whether it's flipped or not. That's my current understanding, at least. I could be wrong, though. But it's more about how the quality of the application and all of that. Okay, so here we are. Interesting. Really interesting. Out of the box, 1% low performance is massively different. 99 FPS over here on the Pro 7i and like 50 over here on the Legion 9i. You see these massive frame time blips? There's some big blips happening on the 9i. I don't know if that's just temporary or what's going on there. Let's go ahead and try some walk around action here. All right, we'll try another benchmark thing right there. All right, I have restarted the benchmark graph, so there's that. Let's go ahead and just actually run around because this is definitely the kind of game where you can get different performance running around versus not. So let's go ahead and just set this up for, I don't think we'll be able to do the jump across the river chasm. I don't think. Maybe I can manage it. I can try. But controlling two computers at once is insanely difficult to time that. Okay, we're resetting our FPS counter now. And we are running. Well, we're actually run walking. Okay. Okay. We're gonna jump across here. Jump across here, and look at us. We are doing it. We're doing it. Amazing. Amazing. Okay, we did the splash flippy jump, and we'll just relocate the mouse over here to the right a little bit. And beautiful. What an amazing two-computer benchmark. I want to take so much focus on controlling these two Witchers at the same time. Hard to focus on the results. Wow, the Legion 9i really crushing it in this game. A little bit better than the Pro 7i, I gotta say. So, cool beans. Let's see here. So we're gonna go ahead and stop the benchmark. 119 versus 132. I mean, that's a pretty noticeable difference considering we're running such similar hardware. You gotta point to the faster RAM speed once again being the difference maker here. 132, 69, 1% lows also being much better on the Legion 9. So interesting. RAM speed, super important. We're learning lots of good stuff. And it's not just important for 1080p gaming, it's still important for QHD gaming. That's basically what I'm thinking, especially when you're mixing ray tracing into the mix. I think that the RAM speed probably becomes extra important because it becomes more sensitive, I think, to the RAM. That's my guess, at least. Plus, GPUs have become so powerful. You know, we're playing with ray tracing, ultra settings, and when you're factoring in frame gen, all of this stuff, I just feel like you get the benefits of having the faster RAM. It really is very, very nice, very important. So let's go ahead and exit this game and do our summary of everything that we figured out about these laptops. Okay, so let's talk shop for a moment. Okay, so pricing and configuration difference, it's about an $800 premium if you want the Legion 9i. That's a huge, steep price upgrade. If you want the upgraded RAM too, it's going to be about $880 approximately. If you want the upgraded RAM over the Legion 9i with the same RAM and same CPU, GPU, rough combo. Of course, better CPU in the Legion 9i and better RAM. And I think it's a 1 terabyte SSD instead of 512 gig. It's another minor difference. And of course, the other big thing is the display. Like we were seeing over and over again in the side-by-side comparison when I was looking at both of these laptops, the Legion 9i display is just has more dynamic range. Like I can see more detail in the clouds when it's a really bright background and a dark foreground. The contrast is more poppy. The color is more saturated on the Legion 9i. And it is a noticeable difference, at least in certain titles. It's not noticeable in everything. And I guess the way I would describe it is the Legion Pro 7i is going to make most gamers super happy. It's going to make most casual Photoshop people, casual designers, casual whatever, creators, super happy. It's colorful enough for most people, no problem. But the people that are very picky about their display quality, they want the peaky brightness, they want the better contrast, they want more of an HDR-like experience, they want the color saturation and color gamut coverage. The Legion 9i display is a big step up over the Pro 7i. And there's no denying it to me. It's a big step. The contrast, especially the HDR coverage and the color gamut is big. And I showed you quite a few side-by-side examples. That said, the camera doesn't pick up all the differences in the contrast and the color gamut because the camera, the camera tends to crush dynamic range a little bit and tends to oversaturate things a little bit. So it's harder to notice that compared to real life eyesight. Now, the CPU and RAM differences were quite pronounced in gaming. I was very surprised at how many games showed 5 to 10 to 15% performance gains, with the biggest performance gain probably being Apex Legends, and the biggest performance win for the Pro 7i being the Warzone 2. Warzone 2 being more clock speed sensitive, it seems like. And memory didn't seem to improve Warzone 2 performance at all for us. We saw better performance on the Pro 7i because it had a higher overall wattage going to that CPU, unless we put the Legion 9i in custom mode and just ramped that CPU out the wazoo. And then we saw very comparable overall performance from the 9i. It was like within 1 or 2 FPS of the Pro 7i, but the Pro 7i was still beating the Legion 9i in Warzone 2. So that was one of the big wins for the Pro 7i. There might have been 1 or 2 other wins for the Pro 7i. Trying to think about it. Okay, let's just go through the games. Apex Legends, Legion 9i won that by like 60, 70 FPS because of the RAM speed. Is the best thing I can best thing I can figure out. The RAM speed really made a difference in Apex. Warzone 2, Pro 7i won that by a few FPS. Counter-Strike 2, a tie, very similar. God of War, Legion 9i won that by like, was it like, I can't remember. It was like 5 or 10 or 15 FPS. It was a noticeable gap between the two. The Cyberpunk 2077, Legion 9i won that by like 8 FPS, I believe. Hogwarts, the very similar average, a little bit better 1% lows on the Legion 9i. I would say it's a tie. Very similar overall performance in Hogwarts. We did 2 tests. The first test, Legion 9i won, but I think that was because of the weather effects going on the Pro 7i. So we redid the test after switching the time, switching the weather around. Okay, so Dead Space. Again, the Legion 9i won that by a good amount. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. The Legion 9i won that by 30 FPS or 26 FPS, I think. It was a large margin in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Starfield, 9i won that by 3-4 FPS for the 1% lows and the average. Baldur's Gate 3 was very similar FPS. I pretty much call it a tie, but the 1% lows were a little better on the 9i. So probably an edge out to the 9i in Baldur's Gate 3. Witcher 3, noticeable advantage to the Legion 9i. So in summary is the Pro 7i worth saving the money versus the Legion 9i? Maybe. Like, one workaround might be buying the Kingston Fury Impact RAM or some other faster RAM out there and putting that into the Pro 7i. That should bring you into more competitive FPS range with the Legion 9i without having to spend the $900 to get there. That said, I'm not sure that the other RAM sticks are going to be supported for the faster RAM mega transfer speeds, or but you probably will get the faster timings out of the box. So it's still probably worth the upgrade if it's $140. It saves you $700, and you should get most of the way there for the performance. That said, the Kingston Fury Impact is XMP certified, so in theory, XMP profiles may work for it, and it is certified for 6400 RAM speed. Cinebench R23, we did see better performance from the Pro 7i just by a little bit in both the one-off tests and the 10 minutes test, but it was very, very close. And until you undervolted both of the CPUs, you're not going to really be able to fully tell which system is actually the faster Cinebench R23, because you're not really doing the full silicon lottery testing until you do that. Without that, both of the laptops were doing 125 watts of power, but the temperatures were better in the Legion 9i in Cinebench R23 by like 10 degrees. Now, I want to make sure it's clear and known, right, that these laptops, we were testing them side by side today. There was only about an inch gap between them so that I could record both screens at the same time. And the 9i exhaust is right here. The double wide exhaust is on the left side over here. So more of the air from the 9i was going, I think, towards the Pro 7i, which I think could negatively affect temperatures. So I want to make sure you see this right here. Hopefully everyone on the live stream sees that. So just in general, though, the air is coming out the Pro 7i and going into the 9i. Air is going into the 9i and going back out and then going underneath the Pro 7i. So there is going to be a large amount of heat buildup between these two laptops, more so than you normally would expect or have. So in general, the fact that we were not thermal throttling heavily on either laptop is awesome. That said, what about the water cooler loop on the Legion 9i? I would consider it a fail. In, what was it, God of War, I believe we were testing, we were running the VRAM all the way up to 110 degrees. And we were hitting thermal throttling in the Legion 9i because there's no active water cooling radiator for that water loop. It's just dissipating the heat through the heat pipes. So why didn't they just use heat pipes or a plate to cool the VRAM like on the Pro 7i? That would be a better cooling solution, I think. And so we had thermal throttling on the 9i in that game. Despite the thermal throttling, we actually did have better performance on the Pro 7i, we had better performance on the 9i, even though it had thermal throttling. And I think, again, because of the RAM. So the RAM speed playing a bigger factor than I could have predicted, and very interesting, I think. Yeah, so other major factor to consider, wrist rests. I was noticing that the 9i wrist rest was quite a bit warmer. Like it felt a bit hot compared to the Pro 7i. Felt generally warm-ish, but not really hot. And I would say that in terms of comfortability, the WASD keys also got quite a bit warmer on both systems when they're together like this. Normally, when you have the laptops apart, the heat's not going to build up as much. So in general, I think the heat buildup's not terrible on either device, but it definitely feels a bit warmer on the Legion 9i. And of course, I got to mention the design difference here of the keyboard placement. The wrist rest is much bigger on the Pro 7i. Let me see if I can raise the camera up so you can see this a little bit better. And I guess I got to raise the exposure on the camera also quite a bit. There you go. So you can see how much smaller this wrist rest is on the 9i versus the Pro 7i. That's going to play a factor in typing comfortability. For some people with big hands. I do have fairly large hands, and I can still comfortably type on either laptop. But I'm also okay with a smaller keyboard and laptop in general. I've used smaller keyboards and laptops without it being too big of an issue in the past. But for people that want a big wrist rest, comfort, and better wrist rest temperatures, the Pro 7i is also potentially better. So in terms of value, best value is obviously the Pro 7i. Like, you're paying almost 25% more to get the Legion 9i. But the Legion 9i, they got that extra RGB. It's going to make it go faster, clearly. No, I'm just kidding. The DDR5, 6400 RAM definitely made a difference in terms of performance. The RGB is a little bit better. The display is obviously the other big factor. The RAM speed and the display both make the Legion 9i a better laptop. That's the way I would describe it. That said, for most people, I'd probably recommend get the Pro 7i and then buy the faster RAM and put it in your laptop. That's probably the best economical route to go. From a financial and price to performance perspective, but at the same time, you don't get the high-end display, the higher-end display, because they're both good displays, but you don't get the special mini LED ultra color saturated, super bright display on the Pro 7i. So, okay, checking chat. Okay, thoughts on the full spec Blade 18 versus the full spec 9i. So I have the Blade 18. I have the $44.99 spec one. It was the highest spec at the time when I bought it. And I love it. It's got better speakers. It's got the best speakers of a gaming laptop. Huge overall display. And when I compare the Blade 18 versus the, let me turn this brightness down a bit. When I compare the Blade 18 right here, to the Legion 9i, the Blade 18 display is just, it's a bigger display. It's not as contrasty though. The brightness on it, I think, is pretty comparable because we got like 575 nits on the Blade 18 and 610 on the Legion 9i in terms of my testing. And color gamut is also comparable between the Blade 18 and the Legion 9i. So really the display is very similar. Performance is going to be, I think, better on the 9i because of the faster RAM speed. So if you're after the best performance, the 9i is a little better. Also, you get a little higher power limits on the 9i for the CPU. So in theory, the 9i, if you get a good silicon lottery, should be able to perform just a little better, but it's close enough. You're getting like 97%, 95% of the performance with the Blade 18. I love the optimization, the build quality of the Blade 18 and the speakers and the webcam. And the larger display is awesome, but I also love the keyboard on the Legion series laptops. That's honestly the biggest reason I'm like, Legion 9i is really awesome because of the keyboard. But yeah, I like the feel of the Blade 18 keyboard, but there's no number pad. The arrow keys suck on the Blade 18. The way they're shaped is awful, in my opinion. It's really poorly designed, carryover from like Apple and other Windows laptops, and full-size arrow keys are just so much better. So, 8 says, I had the Blade 18 max spec, but if I had to choose between the two, if both had released at the same time, I would choose the Legion 9i. I think a lot of people would pick the Legion 9i because of the RAM upgrade and because of the mini LED display. Those two things put together make it, I think, slightly more premium than the Blade 18. But the Blade 18 also has that bigger display, better speakers, better webcam, and I do value those things a lot too. So it would be hard for me to choose if I was choosing between them right now. If I was choosing between them right now, and I kind of am, like the thing is I already own the Blade 18, and it'd be a lot of hassle to swap my laptop out right now. If there was no hassle, then yeah, I'd probably go with the Legion 9i, I think. I'd probably switch to it, probably, but because of the hassle of switching it out, having to sell one laptop, lose a lot of money selling a laptop that's used now to go for another one, which doesn't make any sense to me. Not enough sense for me, at least. I'll probably be upgrading mine next year when the 4080, 4090 Ti's come out, or whatever the next iteration of NVIDIA's cards are. So, and then, yeah, maybe when the 18-inch laptops get mini LEDs, that would also be a reason to upgrade. So, yeah. Okay. That's it for the live stream, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and come back for more. MSI Bravo 15 live stream later this week. Hope this was helpful. If it was, again, smash that like button. See you in the next one. Brandon out. Huzzah.